Pas de soleil, pas de soleil, pas de soleil. La-la-la.
Welcome back, Office Mates. It's me again, Raf, here to quickly share some more experiences I have had in my years of aquascaping. Today's video is all about cheap everyday items that you can buy from a dollar store or Walmart for use as aquascaping tools. I apologize if I sound rushed in this video, but I need to keep it under 15 minutes as that is the maximum length of Instagram videos. So without further ado, let's get into this. Item number one would be using plastic spatulas or steel putty knives as gravel flatteners. Now, in my experience, spatulas and putty knives have been excellent for moving around substrate to any position that I want. It's a much cheaper alternative to what professionals use as their gravel flatteners. However, they're not very appealing when you want to display your aquascaping tools. These items are readily available in most places that sell hardware equipment, and as I've said, they are very inexpensive. Item number two would be using plastic dustpans as gravel scoopers. So this is something that I have come up with in the past for removing substrate that is already inside an aquarium. It could be because I'm rescaping or I'm just replacing the substrate. I have found that the dustpans with rubberized edges lower the risk of me scratching the glass inside the aquarium. And this device greatly reduces the amount of time that I spend scooping out gravel. I used to use fishnets to scoop out the gravel, which would eventually damage the fishnet and take a lot of time. Definitely much better by using your hand to remove the gravel. Light timers. Now, these are much cheaper alternatives than the light timers that are sold in pet stores, specifically advertised as an aquarium supply. These work the same way as the ones advertised for actual aquariums. Personally, for myself, I've only used this for a few months because I ended up simply using my phone's timer to tell me when to turn off the aquarium lights. Sometimes I accidentally dismiss the alarm and I leave my aquarium light for much longer, but this is a much cheaper alternative to the ones that are available in pet stores as light timers. Zip ties as moss securing devices. These are my go-to items for securing smaller patches of moss on driftwood or rocks. Professionals like to use thread or super glue. However, thread takes up a lot of time and super glue becomes very awkward to use when it gets stuck on your gloves. It also kills some of the moss on contact. So moss securing devices such as zip ties, in my opinion, work very well when you're trying to secure it to a very awkward position in driftwood, especially spiderwood. I have found that this is sometimes better than using a thread and needle. Plastic dividers as substrate supports. Using professional substrate supports is very important in aquascapes where you bank your gravel upwards towards the back. They prevent your substrate from rolling forward, but can be pretty pricey. Now, the plastic dividers in these toolboxes do the exact same job of securing your gravel in place. Once buried, they stay in place, but if part of it is exposed above the gravel line, because it's plastic, it will most likely float up. So make sure that it's buried under the substrate. It doesn't have to be buried deep, but just make sure that none of the plastic parts are showing, because if they're buried deep enough, then the substrate will keep it down. So I have combated this by using denser, more compact substrates. Item number 6 would be tool storage from using metal pen holders or plastic cabinet dividers. It's a great way of cheaply organizing your tools with easy access. Just try to use plastic or stainless steel instead of wooden storage boxes because they absorb and retain moisture, which can cause mold. Plastic or stainless organizers are very easy to clean and disinfect. Item number 7 would be trimming zip bag and holder. For scapers who sell their trims, storing your trimmings in a mesh produce bag and keeping it in your tank is an amazing way of keeping them fresh. Also, by using telescopic tray colanders. This provides you with a platform to temporarily hold your trimmings or tools, allowing for excess water to drain above the tank. Because they are telescopic, you can extend them so that the handles keep it suspended above your tank against the tank rims. Number 8 would be underwater plant vases from bowls that you can buy from Walmart or Dollarama. For scapers who want to use real plants but have the budget only for a smaller quantity of planting substrate, they can use beautifully designed bowls, trays, or planting boxes in their tanks surrounded by a thin coating of white sand. The container allows for a deeper concentration of the small amount of substrate for planting so that the plant is securely held beneath the substrate line. Just make sure that the underwater plant box or bowl that you're using is chemically inert. Sometimes if it has paint or some kind of design that leaches into the water, that's bad for your tank. So just make sure that the design or the item itself is chemically inert. Number 9 would be using plastic colanders as water pressure dispersers. This is something that I learned from George Farmer, a professional aquascaper, by watching his YouTube videos. It's when you use a colander when you're filling your aquarium, it disperses the water pressure from you filling in your tank while lowering the amount of particulates kicked up in the water when you pour the water into the colander. The water simply trickles out. So this is something that I have used since then, and it makes setting up a new tank much easier. Using garden watering jugs for filling up your aquarium. This gardening tool allows for highly accurate water pouring into an aquarium when there are lights or overhead filters suspended above the tank opening while greatly reducing spills. This can also be used for priming hang-on back filters. Just make sure that you remove the attachment at the very end of the spout for sprinkling the water, so it's just one stream of gently flowing water. Item number 11 would be food pellet crushers that originally are salt and pepper grinders. This is an amazing tool that I adapted for my aquascaping use for turning bigger pellets that I have on hand or accidentally bought into smaller granules that my nano-sized fish could eat a lot easier. When it's combined with flake food, this device serves as a mixing and storage device for fish food to be readily sprinkled into my tank. Item number 12 would be using paint scrapers as algae scrapers and hydrogen peroxide as algae suppressors. Personally, in my own tank use, compared to using professional counterparts advertised specifically for aquascaping, this cheap scraper set and refill blades do the same trick. It is a much safer way of using a bare razor blade that I usually see recommended on YouTube. It simply takes a razor blade to remove algae, but with the scraper, it actually has it fastened to a handle and it becomes retractable, so it's a lot safer that way. Also, using hydrogen peroxide as an algae suppressor, um, it works effectively for me, but great care is needed when one is testing this out for their personal dose, for their specific tank. For me, I use 75 milliliters per 30 gallons. Just please be careful if you have not researched this method thoroughly. Do not attempt it, as it may inadvertently kill all your fish. So, a lot of research is needed to use this. The last item would be using terrestrial plant fertilizer as liquid fertilizer for your aquarium. Personally, I have found this to be a much cheaper alternative to brand name aquarium fertilizers. However, the same warning as the hydrogen peroxide applies. Miscalculating your own dose can and will kill your fish. So do the research for this thoroughly if you are planning on replicating it. Uh, Otherwise, do not attempt this in your own tank. My own personal dose specific to my tank is 24 small scoops in a 1 liter container of tap water, and the amount that I use every 3 days is about 4 squirts from an emptied out and reused bottle of hand sanitizer. Again, this is just my own personal account of me sharing my experience with this. If you are planning on using this, please do the research. Otherwise, you could potentially kill your fish with this method. I hope you found this video informative. If you like this video, please make sure to like it and follow me on Instagram. Until next time, my name is Raf, and this is Office Space.
Pas de soleil, pas de soleil.